Mover Nation. Nobody, I didn't really plan on doing a live today, but here I am just for you guys because I was like, I have an event that I have to go to. Welcome, Tina Luffman. Welcome. There is one of us. This was like totally, I normally do these Thursday lives, but today I have a lot going on. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And then I was like, you know what? I should keep continuing on my path because I'm on a good path with y'all. So I figured I would finish up my swim and I would make my little protein shake thing and I'd sit here with y'all and let you ask me questions, which you can do in the comments below. um, so I'm reading them actually actively right now. Hello, Kaz. Hello, Kathy Miller. Hello, Tina. Hello, Sab Sab from Kuwait. Thank you so much for joining all the way from Kuwait, which is a hotter place than the southwestern United States apparently, and southern Florida. How many people are enjoying this warm weather wave? So I live, as I've said many times, I live by the coast, and I'm so glad that I live by the coast in Southern California because it's warm here. It's like 80 degrees or what is it? It says 72. I don't believe that. I think it's like closer to 80. Um, but we get a nice breeze. And then this reminded me of why I moved here in the first place because I used to live for 10 plus years on the east side of Los Angeles. So I lived in Hollywood, West Hollywood first, Hollywood, Los Feliz, so Los Feliz, Silver Lake area, and then very briefly in the North Valley during COVID, and then back down. Then I moved during the pandemic to Santa Monica, which is by far the best decision I've ever made, at least as far as moving in California, in Southern California, since I lived here, because it is beautiful. I don't ever run my air conditioner, even when it's really, really hot out. I think I ran it twice last year, and that was only because it was like 95 degrees, but we still got breeze. But it was somebody was complaining. I had a client here, and they're like, "Ah, wah, 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 wah." Yeah, it's like that's what I heard. It's really warm in Florida, and um, but yeah, I am very, very much enjoying my decision to move to the coast of Southern California in Santa Monica. So I'll play my little intro video so you guys know. If you guys are new to the channel, you know who I am. But this is, I got to redo this intro. I promise I'm going to be doing this very, very soon because I hate playing the same intro. This is my podcast, Moving Past Trauma, but I'm Collier Landry. This is my channel, Mover Nation. Welcome. Thursday Thoughts. Let's get into it.
Testimony continued today in the most notorious criminal trial in
When I was 12 years old, my testimony sent my father to prison for murdering my mother. This podcast serves as a type of therapy and reconciliation for myself, and it is my hope that it helps anyone who has experienced deception, betrayal, and dark trauma. I'm Collier Landry, and this is Moving Past Trauma.
And now that I drank that protein shake so fast, I have brain freeze like over my my right eye, which is which makes me relieved that I still have the required equipment. If you caught that, I have the required equipment to have the brain freeze. Um, so you guys, so anyways, you guys can ask me questions because I figure what the hell. I'll talk about some stuff, I guess. I don't really have anything in particular planned, just because it has been an absolute crazy, crazy last couple of weeks. I won't really share all that has been happening, but it has been a lot. All really good things though. But I had this. I had a bunch of loose ends that have been dragging on for years. Years have finally started to tie themselves up. So it's been a pretty monumental last couple of weeks. It's been really overwhelming. I haven't, in all honesty, I haven't really been sleeping very much for the last couple of weeks because it was about a month ago I learned that this whole thing was sort of coming to a head, which was something that I thought was never going to happen. And I think a lot of times when we're, I guess I do have something to talk about, right? I think a lot of times when we are, often there's a lot of people that talk about being attached to outcomes of things, right? And this is something I learned. I learned it actually originally from Wayne Dyer. If you guys know who he is, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he passed away years ago, but he wrote a bunch of books, tons of books. But he was talking about a lot about not attaching yourself to the outcome, and there's a lot of people that say this, and there's a lot of people in the self-help sort of space, and I didn't really, I understood exactly what they were talking about, and I was able to really compartmentalize or put that in my life in a way where I wasn't attached to outcomes of certain situations in my life, like financial outcomes or success outcomes. I'm a filmmaker, so it'd be like, oh, if I make this project, this is going to be this. I tried to really try to stay detached from that, even though it's really, really hard, especially when you work in a creative industry, in a creative field. But, the whole comparison is a thief of joy thing and things of that nature. So I tried to pull myself away from that. And, I'll get into that in a second, Paige Matthews, but thank you so much for saying that. I did talk about this a little bit yesterday. But I tried to stay very detached to the outcome of this one situation. And that situation was, I'm not going to say what the situation is, but it's been going on for almost 3 years. And I got a phone call about a month ago, and it said, hey, I think this thing we're getting into this next phase. And I was like, oh, could this potentially wrap up in a positive way? And, but I haven't, I guess for the last like right. So, okay. So last week was the 4th of July. Before that, so about 2 weeks ago, I really started to realize that, this actually might really happen. We might be coming to the finish line on this thing, which was really amazing. And we did, and we're almost there. So I'm almost there, but it has caused me many, many sleepless nights. I didn't sleep all weekend this past weekend, and I'm somebody who really values my sleep. I try to get at least 7 hours a night. I try to get 8 if I can. 6 to 8 is usually the thing. The problem is I tend to be an early bird, and I also tend to be a night owl. So I get like a second wind around like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I don't know why. I just do. Probably because I drink a lot of coffee. As Coffee Buzz comes on here and says sleep is very important. So I think that a lot of that affects that. But yeah, so a lot of times I can't turn my brain off, and I can't sleep. So yeah. Anyways, and back in the day when I used to do that, I used to drink, so I would pass out and I would fall asleep. But that was never any good either. So I would occasionally do that, but that was a bad habit to get into, and it never did any good either because you weren't sleeping well. But yeah, so I have obviously much healthier habits nowadays for the last several years, but yeah, it was interesting because you can't shut your brain off. And I was just reading, I have one of these little Aura rings. Maybe I'll get them to be a show sponsor one of these days, which tracks your sleep number and things of that nature. Gives you a sleep score every morning. And they were talking about like foods to eat, which promote sleep. And I usually take melatonin, but sleep friendly foods, and I'm like, I need to get into some of those. But this last 2 weeks has been very minimal sleep, which is really sucks. And I couldn't take a nap either during the day like I often do. But I do want to answer a question. Thank you so much for dropping a sticker, Paige Matthews. What are my thoughts on the Zav girl and the Gannon? Okay, so I talked about this a little yesterday. I had Tara Newell on. We talked about it a little bit. I was unaware of this until Tara said, "Have you seen Twitter? Have you seen what's going on with this thing?" And I said, "No." And so there's this girl, Zav girl, and there's this girl, Natasha Cooper. And somebody reached out to me and sent me an email about these people this morning saying they know them. I don't really care. I appreciate them reaching out to me, and that I appreciate. But as far as these creators, I understand that there are a lot of factors, and they put these things behind the paywall because they have trolls or they have this and that. I'm not questioning on where they place their stuff. I don't care if they put it behind a paywall. I don't care if they had it out in front. I don't care of any of that. It's not the fact that they had it behind a paywall. It's the fact that they had them and they put them out in the first place. That's the judgment that I question. And the reason why I question this judgment is because these FOIA requests have been lately have really been abused by a lot of creators, in my opinion, because these were originally out there for families to be able to access, for the media, obviously, to have them. But I would say that if you have publications like the New York Times, USA Today, is hard copy still on, or 48 Hours? If these particular news agencies, Fox News, CNN, don't show these photos or don't go after this material, and they have multi-million dollar white shoe law firms on salary, on staff, they literally don't put it out there. Don't do that. So I think that in this world of chasing this internet clout, and these people are, from what I'm coming to understand, I don't know these people personally, but they're all claiming, oh, well, I did it behind a paywall because I'm trying to protect myself for this, that, and the other. But you're still putting the material out. I don't care if you put it behind a paywall or not. Put it out there. That's the problem. And then what happens is now, because these FOIA requests are being abused, and again, the whoever was in the police department or whoever was in the in law enforcement that gave over these photos unintentionally, they weren't supposed to be part of this. That doesn't mean they should have revealed it. And that is only going to affect other media organizations, other creators, and especially families who might file these FOIA requests to get their own information, to find out what's going on with their requests. It has been recommended to me to file a FOIA request on my father's trial. Several friends of mine have said, why don't you do that, which I'm going to do, because there's some things that I'm looking to find out that I don't really know because I've never really also paid attention to it. But they're like, well, have you ever done this before? And I said, no. So unfortunately, this affects all of us. That's the biggest problem. Not only is it insensitive to the families of the victims and the victims themselves, but it also really screws things up for everyone else, because it's looked at now with all this media attention, and these people are being excoriated because of this, and rightfully so, in my opinion. Now it ruins it. It's like, this is why we can't have nice things, right? We always say, this is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have access to this information, because people abuse this power. That's the problem that I have with this. That's it. You know what I mean? It's not that they put it behind a paywall. It's that this is now going to be looked at as an abuse of a FOIA request. I think. I mean, I think any logical person would say that. That is my opinion on this current situation. I hope it gets resolved. Laura North says, you lived near Hollywood. Did you ever try acting, Collier? Interestingly enough, so I moved to Los Angeles I moved to Southern California in 2001, beginning of 2001. I moved to Los Angeles towards August of 2002. But I never wanted to be a, quote, actor. Now, I loved Errol Flynn when I was a kid growing up, in Robin Hood, Scaramouche. I loved Errol Flynn. But I did love acting. I liked acting. I went to music school. I wanted to be like a rock star. And I also was very compelled to tell my story of what happened to me. And I will be doing videos and podcasts about this as things start to settle down, because I have so much material that I've been curating behind the scenes. It's just a lot being a creator, and I think you guys understand that. And I'm also trying to honor these commitments of doing these lives with you guys, because I love doing this. But I'm putting together some material. But yes, the answer is yes, I did. I actually, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was discovered by some modeling agents, and I got into doing extra work. as a model, and I got on a movie, and then that led me into like doing some acting stuff. But I really wanted to do music. And that's what I ended up pursuing until my studio was robbed. It was a whole thing. And then I decided to get into filmmaking behind the camera. And it's a whole story for a whole other day. But yes, I did. I did some acting. I still do acting. Well, I haven't done it for a little while, but I do have friends that send me scripts from time to time. I do voiceover acting sometimes. I have appeared in my own commercials that I have shot as well. When I was a cinematographer, well, I still am a cinematographer, but when I was working very actively before starting the podcast, and I would say I'll say pre-pandemic, because everything changed for in the pandemic, and I decided to start the podcast because it was right when my film went on streaming services, right when it came out, and I decided to take a new direction and not work on set as much because there was no set work, right? And there still isn't, because now Screen Actors Guild is on strike with the Writers Guild, so there's nothing going on, right? So. But I would often be a cinematographer on set, and either the director or producers would be like, "Can you come on and say a line?" And so I have shot so much stuff that I have also been in as an actor. And I'm actually not bad. I'm actually pretty good. Some of my friends are actors, very successful actors, and are like, "Man, you're not bad. Like you got some chops." So I said, okay, whatever. But it was not something that I seriously pursued. Yes, I got headshots, and yes, I went on auditions, but I was never really being an actor is really tough. It's a really hard gig for sure. I never had the dedication to go to. I mean, I did acting classes for a little while, I suppose, when I was younger, but I never really had I'm going to be an actor. I just said, if it works out, I'll do it. Again, being detached from the outcome, right? So, hey, maybe there's hope for me still. I think there probably is. Yeah, so I would do like a little web series. Like I said, I shot some commercials in 2021. I put myself in it because they're like, "Oh, we need a handsome groom, or we need this person, that." So I remember I had my assistant director. I'd be like, "Okay, you're gonna hold the camera. I'm gonna be there." Put on the tuxedo. It was really, really kind of funny. But yeah. I guess I guess that's sort of the benefit of maybe having talent. Tina Luffman, let's see here. After your father's trial, did the media hound you for interviews? How did it make you feel? How is it now? Yes, they did sort of, but I was a minor too, so I was 12 years old. There was obviously, it's an interesting thing. This is an interesting question because I suppose that looking back on it, I was exploited, if you will. I don't look at it that way, by the way, but I think in the terms of like I was a minor, I was on television, I was testifying at the trial, I was in the newspaper, people were talking about it. Like I don't think that would happen again. I don't think that happens nowadays. I don't even know if they let children testify in open court anymore, because I testified in open court. In fact, one of the things that still irks me to this day is when we released A Murder in Mansfield and it got onto streaming platforms, it still says on the description from Investigation Discovery, 12-year-old Collier Boyle gave videotaped testimony. And I'm like, I did not give videotaped testimony. It was on video because the news cameras were in the courtroom. I did not go in this private room and give, which they do now, obviously for children's safety, right? They don't want them confronting their abuser in court. I mean, it's awful. For me, I wanted to do it. I wanted to stare my father down. But I always kind of take issue with that in my head. I'm like, I'm not getting credit for actually facing him in court. People think I sat in a conference room and gave a videotape testimony, like a deposition, because that's not what happened. I was in trial, but you guys all know that. But it's interesting. So I often wonder, like, would that happen now? I don't think that happens. I think there's a lot of laws that protect kids from that. It doesn't make me angry or anything. This was something that even when the prosecutor, James J. Mayer, had asked me, they were like, are you sure that you want to do this? And I was like, Absolutely. It's like over my dead body, I'm not going to do this, as my mother used to say, over my dead body. Mind the pun. But uh, I was very eager to testify. I don't think nobody obviously could have talked me out of it because I wanted to finish that. I had that commitment. My mind made up. I'm going to testify against my father. I'm going to see this thing through, right? So I don't remember getting a lot of media requests. I did get media requests. Like a lot of people couldn't find me for a long time. So um, I remember the first time that I had a media request was when my father was up for parole the first time, which was in 2010, and I had a media request, and I want to say it was not with an Ohio paper. I don't think. I think it was like with the Guardian or something. Maybe not. Maybe I'm tripping. I think maybe it was with an Ohio paper, but they asked me about my father's parole, and I spoke on that. And then obviously after making the film and being out there, I have a ton of media requests. I get media requests all the time, and I'm happy to sit here and talk to them. So it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me talking about it. I mean, obviously I talk about it on the show with you guys. I talk about it in public. It is something for a long time that I didn't talk about. And again, I think nobody knew who I was or where to find me. So, and I was just living my life and preparing to make the film and to do something, or not even preparing to make the film, but to do something with my story. So anyways, so drop a sticker if you have a question for me, and I will do my best to answer it for you guys. I'm going to, yeah, yes, I agree, Paige. It is an 11-year-old boy. I don't know. Was he like butchered? Like, is that the deal? Like his, oh, yeah. I'm sure those images were, well, they were shown in the courtroom because I think I remember the judge who was sitting on the case had commented on the horrific nature of the crime. So yeah, it's a very serious lapse in judgment. Let's just put it that way. That those creators decided to share those photos and then put them behind a paywall. I don't care. I care very little about the paywall thing. I mean, even though it's obviously they're trying to make money from it, they're saying they did that for their own protection. It's the fact that they put them out there in the first place due to this FOIA request. There's just like, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility or restraint. So just because somebody gives you something doesn't mean you have to exploit it. Just because you get access to something, unless it's the flip side, unless it works to the advantage of the family, like there's some leaked evidence and they're trying to get a conviction or something, or somebody finds something, then yeah, of course, that really helps, right? But not after the fact and this poor child, because nobody wants to see those images. Nobody should have to see those images. I can just remember seeing the autopsy photos of my mom, which you guys see in A Murder in Mansfield, and I see those, and it's a very big deal, and it was something that Susan and Dave Messmore tried to convince me not to do in their house. They said, "Don't go," and I said, "Well, this is part of what this whole filmmaking experience is it's being vulnerable and sharing my story and showing people that they can have the courage to even confront these demons, 25 years later, right?" And I already had images in my head, and I had seen the images when I was 11 because I was in the police station, and I remember there was a file, and I had seen it from afar, and there were images laying on the desk because I was kind of like snooping around as I as I did when I was a kid. So I did sort of see the images, but I had conjured up in my mind for decades of what those images looked like until I actually saw that in the film, which you guys see me when Dave Messmore flips the page, and then I see my mother's body, her face, and it just kind of puts a finality on that. But I had conjured up these things in my mind for decades on what they could have looked like. So it's not good. Um, they were shown, but they purchased them through FOIA. Hey, Black Eagle. Beautiful day on the southern coast of Maine. Yeah, so there's flooding in Maine. Is the live stopping and starting for anyone else? Got it. Kaz lives in Australia, and Australia has notoriously terrible internet. At least when I was in Sydney, I was absolutely dumbfounded at how piss poor the internet connection was. I could not believe it. I guess it has something, I was told it has something to do with the government because they spent a bunch of money trying to run internet to everyone's houses. And instead of developing an infrastructure and they ran out of money to finish it and all this stuff. And then they just kind of stopped. They spent billions and billions of dollars on it. And then they just stopped for whatever reason. It's very, very interesting. I'm having a lot of knee pain, by the way, lately. And I'm thinking about taking an ibuprofen. I don't know why I thought of that, but I did. I don't take anything, so except for my inhaler. So I think that I thought of that as I was swimming today. I was like, maybe I should take some ibuprofen. That would help because it's kind of swollen. Yeah, saw the SAG press conference and Fran Drescher spoke with conviction. Yeah, it's a big deal. Like the WGA and the Screen Actors Guild are on strike, and the Directors Guild is also talking about apparently going on strike as well. What gets me is when someone is a victim of crime, it starts to feel like the public thinks they own them. Their story, their experiences, and now their body. It's like a violation. Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to just comment on this. Gabriel, the Magalore, Maine. I don't know. Is that a reference to something and I'm missing it? Is that a pop culture reference? Magalore? It's Mordor. Is that the thing in Lord of the Rings? In our latest episode of Survivor Squad today, Tara Newell and I interviewed Amanda Knox, and you guys all know her and you know her story, or you might know her story, or you think you know her story. It's a fantastic interview, and this is one of the things she talks about is how. And she did an article for the Atlantic, and it says, I think the article is titled "Who Owns Amanda Knox." And she talks about how everybody thinks that they own her story, but her, and everybody feels that they can weigh in and talk about everyone, and they do this. And it's like they're right here; they can tell their own story, but everybody's trying to tell her story for her instead of getting her story out of her. And obviously, that case is a very polarizing case for a lot of people. But I encourage you guys to listen to it. It's in today's episode of Survivor Squad, and then tomorrow's episode as well. There's part 2. Which releases tomorrow, but check out Survivor Squad, which I co-host with Tara Newell. And we interviewed Amanda Knox. It's a very, very good episode. She says a lot of things that are really, really poignant. In fact, maybe I can play. I will play. Hey, look at this. I will play a quick little teaser from that. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Yeah, here we go. I'll do this right now. Here, check it out.
One of the things that I've always felt was kind of sad about my own case, like your case, for instance, right? Like you're talking about your dad murdering your mom and you playing a very central role in solving that crime, but also being under threat because of that crime. Like there's a very good reason why you became very central to that story. There is not a good reason why I became central to the story that I became the center of. I should have been a footnote in the story of what happened to Meredith. I had 2 other roommates, and a lot of people don't even know they exist. And that would have been my story. I would have basically been like one of those roommates who just happened to be living in the same space as this young person who was so horrifically, raped and murdered in her own home.
That's a little teaser of today's episode of Survivor Squad. So that is Amanda Knox right there talking about it. It's a really wild story. If you guys have not seen the documentary about her, which her and I also talk about, and I and Tara also talk about, and just coming from someone who made a documentary about their particular situation in that space, it was really well done. But even there's a guy who was a reporter who covered the whole case for I believe The Guardian actually, or Daily Mail UK, Um, but he talks about just how it was like one-upping with the headlines and, calling her Foxy Noxy and all these things and creating and sort of jumping on this scandal that she was involved in and this love triangle. They were just creating and all the tabloids were trying to one-up each other and forgetting the fact that there's a young lady and a young man, because it was her boyfriend at the time. And when you watch the documentary, they'd only been in the country like 2 weeks or something, or a month. Very wild. And nothing linked them. It was just really, really insane. And just, it took everything from her at the time. And then to go through the yo-yo of the court, and she was in prison for 4 years. And it's really, I have a lot of respect for her, especially to sort of come out and try to try to advocate for other people. She works a lot with Justin Brooks, who I've had on the program as well. He wrote a book. He's a lawyer. He works with the California Innocence Project. He wrote a book called "You Might Go to Prison Even If You're Innocent," and he advocates. He's actually in the UK right now, advocating with and teaching some law students and things of that nature. And yeah. Yvette says, "Hi, Yvette. After seeing your mom's autopsy report, did you feel any peace of mind?" That's an interesting question, and I'll tell you why. And if you look in the film, my father, when I'm asking him, and well, spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen the film, I have a big scene with my father, which you may or may not see in this little intro that I play. And I confront him, and he says to me something to the effect of, he says, I asked him, I said, how did she get the plastic bag over her head? Because my mother, according to the autopsy report, primary cause of death was suffocation from the plastic bag, and then secondary cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. So he probably not to be morbid about it, but put the plastic bag and then whacked her in the head. And I talked about this with Jody Weber on her podcast, Caught in My Web, which is on her Patreon. She's been a regular guest on here. I was trying to get her to come on today. We talked about it, and she said, she's like, he probably did that to limit the blood spill and things of that nature. And I was like, well, yeah, that makes total sense. But I did ask him, I said, how did she get the plastic bag over her head? And he said, oh, well, I put the plastic bag over her head, after he's denying taking her life, right? And because I had seen that autopsy report, and I knew about the plastic bag, but I didn't really know about the plastic, like what it looked like. It was like a shopping bag. Having seen that autopsy report, or knowing about that autopsy report, allowed me to ask that question to him, to allow him to sort of trap him into the lie that he was perpetuating, to just sort of, because he says, well, I put the plastic bag over her head, but then he goes, well, I put the plastic bag over her head because I didn't want to look at her, and it's like he's telling part of the truth. And so, to your point, and I'll put your question up here again, Yvette, it allowed me to sort of figure out, because he's telling part of the truth, so he's trying to use that to tell the whole, to make you and convince and manipulate you that he's telling the entirety of the truth, the whole truth, right? Because he's admitted one part, he didn't want to look at her, right? So he put the plastic bag. I put the plastic bag over her because I didn't want to look at her. That part of that is true. He would finish the sentence and say, I put the plastic bag over her head because I didn't want to look at her as I was taking her life. That's it. He doesn't finish the statement. So it allowed me to sort of entrap him in that way, to realize that he was manipulating me, and he was being deceptive, essentially. Kristen Schmid, thank you so much. My mother's maiden name, by the way, is Schmid. Are we related? You never know. Yes. Bubsy, thank you for your email, by the way. I was talking about that, not about that email, but we were discussing the situation earlier, and I appreciate your thoughts. Collier, would you be willing to mentor to the teenage daughter in the Doberman case from Ohio? This young lady is... Um, there's a teenage daughter from like Chad Dorman has a teenage daughter that I did not know. You can email me at movingpastmurder@gmail.com. It's in the description or my email, whatever my email is. It's on the YouTube page. We'll discuss. In short, yeah. We'll discuss. Sorry, that kind of took me aback. Stepdaughter. Oh. She's the one that ran for help. I thought it was the mother, but I guess the mother was attacked too, right? I don't know a lot about all of this. Yeah, it's a shame. That's a real shame. Wow. Yeah, you guys all know. Stepdaughter. Yeah, Kaz, for sure. Daily Mail. Well, it's all about the headlines, right? You're welcome, Scout Inquirer. Yeah. Wow, that's really rough. A lot of people have, survivor's guilt, and I'm sure that she probably is really struggling with that. And so is she the mom's daughter and those are her brothers? Or is she his daughter from another marriage? Or I guess I'll go figure that out. But that's yeah. Oh, thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. That's awesome. There's a lot of good stuff on there. I'm putting more stuff on there. Again, sort of this thing that I was talking about at the top of all of this. When I asked at the top of this. What I was talking about at the top of this is all of these things that have kept me all these sleepless nights for the last month. They're going to allow me to create a lot more content for you guys. So it's very exciting, and yeah, it's a lot. But so the Patreon will be having a lot more content on it. It's hard to juggle and sort of keep the lights on because this is a very costly thing to do. So, and even though with the Patreon supporters and supporters here on the channel, and I thank all of you for that, it's just, it's a lot. So now there's going to be some extra things that are going to help support the content. So it's really, really great. So, but I thank you all, and there will be a lot more content now because now I'll be on a roll, and it's going to be just really, really great. Yes, mom's daughter from a prior marriage. Okay, got it. And then Kristen Schmid, you bought the super sticker. Thank you very much. When I asked the medical examiner to see my mother's photos, she wouldn't let me. It reminded me of something you said. Sometimes you get the answer you need, not what you think you need. Yeah, sometimes the answer you seek is not the answer you need, which was the title of my TED Talk. Yeah, we like the Schmid, though. Yes, it is very exciting, Kim Shorin. Thank you so much. Kim Shorin, who now I've actually figured out that you're Sunny Kim on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever it is. One of the places. I'm so sorry. So they wouldn't let. I think that a lot of times, though, to your point, Kristen Schmid. Kristen Schmid. I think a lot of times they're trying to be sensitive, and they're also trying to be very aware of a person's mental health. Again, when I wanted to see the photographs in the film, Sue and Dave Messmore were like, no. Of course, my director was like really trying to get me to do it, but as I realized in that moment, it wasn't something I was really looking forward to. Let me be honest. But I said, the thing is that this is what this is about. It's about showing a way to deal and cope with the trauma that you've been through, and having the courage to push your boundaries. And hopefully this helps someone, this helps people, and it helps myself, right? And I do something that was very scary for me, right? I didn't want to do that, but it was, I was very nervous about it. It was like pulling the Band-Aid off, and it's, absolutely horrific, by the way. But I think that maybe the coroner or whatnot is was just trying to look out for you. I am very close, Coffee Buzz, to 30K subscribers. I have a girl who I'm working with tomorrow who has like 1 million subs on YouTube, but I told her we're doing a quick little job together, it looks like. And she's a voiceover actress and she's very talented. She does she has comedy videos. But I told her, I said 30, I'm almost at 30,000 subs, and she goes, "That's amazing." And I said, I need some YouTube tips. She's an old school YouTuber. She's been around for like almost like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So she's got a lot of wisdom she wants to impart on me. Thank you so much, Kathleen Welsh. Are you melting in Florida as well? There's some other people in Florida. I know that you're in Florida. You could be flooded in New York, or you could be you could be melting in Florida. But thank you for dropping this is a super sticker, right? I watched this through an interface, by the way, so I don't see all this on YouTube, which is why I can't put the little Mary Soul or the Collier stickers on here when we're doing this, and I want to so bad. Oh yeah, that's right, Sarah. You are also in Florida as well. I've been very. Oh yes, Scout Inquirer Collier. Maybe try guiding meditation. Yeah, like guided meditation on YouTube. It helps with trying to get some sleep. It's relaxing. Speaking as a retired first responder. Well, I will take heart to that. You know what else I discovered last year? And it was very relaxing, but I haven't watched them in a very long time since I discovered them. But it's dancing fruits, and it's for like little kids, but they have them on YouTube, and it's got like millions upon millions of views. But like they come out and they just like dance. It's like dancing pineapples. So like this fake funny background music, but they're like animated. They're like and it's stuff that they put on. It's like for babies, and they put it on like so the baby can be watching the iPad and just be entertained. That is something that really, really helped me. And you know what? You just reminded me. I'm going to start watching those when I want to fall asleep. I used to watch the same thing. I think that we all probably, oh yeah. So Kathleen Welsh, you are melting in South Florida or in Florida. Forever Curious. It says a little chilly in Glasgow, Scotland. My neighbor is actually from Glasgow. He has lived in Santa Monica for, he said 13 years, 15 years in the same. It's literally my neighbor. So I go out on my balcony. His balcony is right there. He's super cool. His name is Rob. Rob from Glasgow. And then the neighbor in front of him that just moved in, he's from Ireland. So he's from Dublin. So we have Dublin and Scotland right next to each other. Or Ireland and Scotland next to each other. Dublin and Glasgow. But yes, I also Tina Turner's chant. Oh, that's interesting. My kids watch it sometimes. Oh, your kids watch the Dancing Fruits? Yes, and Dog TV. I have also, as I was swimming today, I was figuring out like, oh, I need to do the 24/7 Marisol channel. And I was like, well, what cameras would I need to get? Because of course I'm a filmmaker, so I'm always thinking like, what would I use? What kind of cameras? But I'm like, I think I just a regular, like a pretty decent webcam costs like $100 or something. So maybe I'll do that. I'm gonna have to figure that out. Frasier to fall asleep. I was also I used to fall asleep to there's a Canadian television series that was, on a bajillion years ago, but they keep doing new specials and Netflix bought it. It's called Trailer Park Boys. I don't know why. I watched it for like years to fall asleep. Now I've been falling asleep lately to the water temperature in the Gulf of Mexico is 89 degrees. Wow. Wow. Oh, did you guys see this? Okay, this is something I want to talk about. Did you guys see this video of this woman that was on an airplane on a flight from Dallas to somewhere who freaked out because she said there was a reptilian person on the plane? And of course, the internet's going crazy and calling her a Karen or whatever. Yes, Gen X Granny, Trailer Park Boys is funny, but it's also like a bunch of drunken shenanigans, and there's only so much of that like you should be like imputing in putting in your brain. But my favorite episode of Trailer Park Boys, sorry to get off track for a second. My favorite episode of Trailer Park Boys is season 3, episode 1, which is when they get out of jail. They're always getting out of jail. They always go to jail at the end of the season, and they start out getting out of jail the first season, but they get a bunch of money from a marijuana deal that they did or something, and they just blow it. It's so funny. Like on fireworks and just like the dumbest stuff. But so anyways, there's this video of this woman. She was on a flight, and then people are saying that it was staged, and it was like these people are actors. I mean, who knows, right? But and then there's somebody who I watched the YouTube video. They were being interviewed, and they were there on the airline, and they said, "Oh yeah," and she was freaking out. But apparently, and then this guy said on this UFO channel, he said the guy in the hoodie wasn't looking at him, or was looking at him but didn't say anything. And he said that this woman was yelling at him or having a conversation, was freaking out. Dallas to Orlando. Yep, that's it. And she said he was a reptile, and he had like on a green hoodie. And then he said the guy winked at him, but he said the eyelids closed. It said like this. They closed like sideways, like I guess like a reptile. I don't know. I don't know what to think of any of that. That's wild. That's really eerie to think about if that's true. There's a lot of all this. There's so much UFO speculation going on, and I do not doubt. There is no doubt in my mind. There's never been a doubt in my mind ever since I was like, it is a fact. We are not alone. 100%. The galaxy is vast. I don't care what you believe, what religion you belong to, we are not alone. Now, they might be beings, they might be holy beings, they might be otherworldly, it might be God, it might be a whole angels, who knows what it is, right? Angels, demons, whatever it is, but we are not alone. That's really scary to think about, but yes. A lot. Boring academic lectures. Yeah, and I also thought about getting the Calm app as well with like the rainfall and everything. So I need to get into that. I used to listen to audiobooks too. I got to get into better with the thing. I've been like, so lately I've been trying to fall asleep to old episodes of Succession. And sometimes I think when you're so tired, you're just like, I don't want to do this again, but it just works. It just works for me. Like, why reinvent the wheel? I just want to fall asleep. So lately it's been Succession, which is a show that I miss, that I'm going to miss terribly. I can't believe it's off the air. So terrible. It says face red heart shape. See, I don't see any of these emojis you guys put on this particular program that I'm in. 100% we are not alone. Nearly once they're yes, and so somebody put this online, and videos about the universe are very relaxing. Yes, I used to listen to when I was a kid. I have these audio tapes, and they were this voice like taking you through our solar system, so all 9 planets, and I remember it would be like Ganymede and like the moons around Saturn or something. I think one of them's called Ganymede, or maybe it's Jupiter. No, Saturn. Anyways, it'd be this. And I also have the white noise from the fan, which is something that it needs to happen. If I don't have that, like I actually travel with a little fan that has a USB cord so it can plug into the thing, because it doesn't even need to blow on me. I just need to hear it. Oh yeah, I was always I never popped pills, but I was definitely a drinker. I mean, I remember, because I didn't like to fly, so I would get drunk on the airplane. I mean, I wouldn't be obnoxious, but I would definitely be buzzed up, and then I would arrive and I'd be like, woo, or or if you travel internationally, be hungover, and that lasted like one time. And even before I officially quit drinking, I quit doing that on flights years before that, because I was like, this is just not, you travel internationally and you're dealing with jet lag and a hangover. Oh, forget it. And it also, alcohol also heightens your anxiety as well. I do have a friend years ago that drank red wine. She was with her husband, and they drank red wine on a flight. They were flying to China, and he took an Ambien, and she started videoing him on her iPhone, and she showed it to me because he was just talking gibberish, but he was asleep. But he was like just talking gibberish. He was so out of it. Ambien apparently can be very dangerous. I've taken it a few times, but apparently people can sleepwalk, and it's can be really, really, really bad. No, Kung Fu Panda, because you drink enough to like pass out, so you pass out for a couple hours. But yes, no, when you arrive, it's miserable. Especially you smell like booze and you arrive and you're meeting people. It's like, oh. I just remember one time I was stuck in Phoenix and I was so nervous to get on the flight, and I was filming a documentary about bees actually, and we were in the Phoenix airport. It was Super Bowl weekend in Phoenix, and we were stuck, and we were there in the airport for like 7 hours, a 7-hour layover. Flight kept getting canceled because of the Super Bowl and all this other stuff, and I literally. I think I got so loaded, and I just somehow made it to the plane and was like, whoa. No, not a good look. Not a good look. Yes, CBD gummies. I do those now. Absolutely, CBD helps a lot. Yeah, I'm sure drinking on a plane gets you, because you're at the altitude and everything. But yeah, trust me, I had a good old time for sure. I'm much better with flying now. Yes, I take melatonin. I do not take NyQuil at all, just because it's a medicine, and I don't think. I mean, I've taken it before. I remember, years ago. I remember my friends would drink when I was young. I mean, this is like we were in our very early 20s, late teens, and I had friends that were older than me. Where CBD is still illegal? Where, Bubsy? I've vaped on planes. I've vaped a THC pen on planes before. Haven't done that in a long time, but I did it a few times. But I would like to know where CBD is. Oh, Australia. Oh yeah, you guys are not fans of anything that is THC or cannabis or anything. It's very odd to me. You guys like to drink, but weed is a big no-no over there. I like almost like it's you're judged if you do it very harshly, but people still do it because I found it there. I was around it. CBD is not psychoactive. That's correct. But yeah, they have some weird laws over there in Australia, for sure. Yes, they do. And cigarettes and beer are very expensive too. Very expensive. And DUIs are massive. If you get a DUI, it is not a good thing over there. It's not a good thing, period, by the way. It's not a good thing to get a DUI. But, yeah, I find CBD to be very relaxing. I have some right here, actually. And I just discovered that I had this. This is CBD with CBN, which is like a nighttime thing. I don't know why I have this at my desk, by the way, because I found it yesterday. I was cleaning out. I was looking for some hard drives, and I was like, why would I have this up by my desk? If I took it, then I'd be like, so I got to put that in my bedroom. Just glad I just remembered. CBN helps to go to sleep. Yes, we do naturally have cannabinoids in our brain chemistry. That is absolutely correct. Lots of pot shops in Canada, Ontario. I've found at least 4 in Kingston, Ontario. Oh yeah, they're all over the place. Don't hang out with people who judge. Yes. Much rather, oh yes, 100%. I would say THC would be way better than, way better than, I think alcohol is one of the most destructive things on the planet. It's so bad for you. It's so bad. The fact that I used to put that in my body. No. Not good. No offense to anyone that drinks, but it is very, very destructive on so many levels. Not just like it's bad for you, but it's just destructive for society in general. You think about people getting DUIs and hitting someone, taking someone's life, ending their own life, damaging property. It's available everywhere. There's no real regulation of it. I mean, yes, you have to be 21 to do it, to get it. in most states, I believe. I don't know if it's all states, but most states, like probably 49 out of 50, I guess. But yeah, it's wild. I shot a documentary in New Orleans like 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And they have drive-through daiquiri, drive-through daiquiri places, so you can drive through and get your daiquiri. And I thought, isn't that like how does that work exactly? Like a drive-through daiquiri place. If DUI is illegal, but you can drive through and get a daiquiri, like how, I just I couldn't quite understand that. Yes, the memory lapses alone for sure. Hangovers are punishment. Yes, good thing, Sarah. You are not missing anything. Trust me. Depending on your genetic disposition, of course. Yes, that's very true. Very true. Yeah, I don't miss it at all, Gen X Granny. What else? What else? Yvette says, I had to quit drinking after my blackout last month. My brother had to carry my fat ass to my room because I was so wasted. Yeah, that would be it. The blackout. Had a couple of those in my time too. It's not a good thing. Not being able, and I'm someone who prides himself on his memory too. It's not a good thing to black out. Oof. No, no, no. I mean, I mean, my drinking was certainly exacerbated, as many people's was during the pandemic, for sure. I think everybody, I had roommates, and everybody was just like getting wasted. I think alcohol sales were up 60% or something like that during the pandemic in the United States. So yeah, a lot of people were partaking in libations at that time. Favorite food, favorite movie, favorite music, favorite beverage, and favorite hobby. I don't know. Favorite music. I like all kinds of music. Favorite hobby. I have a lot. I have a lot of hobby. Anything that's creative, I would say. Yes, no, no, nobody likes being told what they did the next. Oh, no. Yes, that's the worst when somebody says, "Oh, you did this and you don't remember doing it." Ooh, forget it. Forget it. Oh yeah, I did. No, I vaped on the airplane. Not terribly proud of it. I was also tipsy when I did it too. Uh, Welcome from Ohio, Bigfoot Anon. Um, yeah, the being told what you did and said the next day. Yeah, that's the worst. The absolute worst. Um, well, anyways, it has been an hour. I do not play music out currently, but that is one of the things that I am working on. I am actually starting up guitar lessons again on Monday, and I'm very, very excited about that. Like, very excited. A new guitar teacher, gonna try it out. Nicotine, yeah, but I don't smoke. I don't smoke cigarettes. I never smoked. I mean, I have smoked cigarettes, but I was never a cigarette smoker, if that makes sense. But which was just stupid, by the way. What a dumb thing to do. The boozy blues. Nicotine, yeah, nicotine and gum would make me nauseous on an airplane. Oh, well, thank you so much for finding me, Tamara Ramirez. I had never heard of you before, but I am fascinated with your story. Thank you for sharing. Oh, you're most certainly welcome. I was still embarrassed about what I did in my teen years, and I'm 63. Yeah, I feel you. I'm not 63, but I'm still embarrassed for sure. Yes. Oh, that's interesting. You can get alcohol delivered during COVID. I don't remember. Well, there was not a lot of delivery. Was there a lot of delivery going? I guess there was a lot of delivery going on COVID. Yes, I'm very excited about these new guitar lessons. You know, and like everybody's, well, speaking of COVID, everybody was like now like teaching stuff online. I was like, I want to be in your, he's like, I do them online or I can do them in person. You know, we can do them online though. It's like, no, I want you to be, I want to be in the physical presence. I want you to say, don't do this, do this. I need hands-on instruction, like the good old days. That's how my brain works. I mean, I love being online and watching it. I watch enough YouTube videos on guitar. I want the real thing in this. Anyways, Mover Nation, it has been so great chatting with all of you. I really appreciate it. Thank you again to everyone who bought stickers and super chats in today's live. Thank you so much. Thank you to all my channel members, my Patreon supporters, Patreon members, Patreon patrons rather. Thank you all so much. And for all of you who subscribe and who showed up today, thank you so much for being here and sharing and sharing this with me. And just, this was a fun little live and totally impromptu. So on that note, I'm Collier Landry, and this is Moving Past Trauma. Thanks, y'all.
This podcast is made possible by support from listeners just like you. For exclusive content around this podcast, please consider supporting me via Patreon by going to collierlandry.com/support. Please subscribe via Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from, and please leave us a 5-star review. If you want to see video episodes of this podcast, please check out my YouTube channel at youtube.com/collierlandry. You can find links to additional resources in the show notes of today's episode. This podcast is a production of Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Collier Landry.